We're back continuing our conversation with Colonel David Sutherland, Special Assistant to the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Colonel, combat is something which I'm sure cannot be described verbally. You have to experience it to really know what it is, but share with our viewers what combat is like, what commanding, as you mentioned, thousands of troops in Iraq is like.
Well, first off, for an officer, there is no greater privilege than to command our servicemen and women in combat and to serve with them, not necessarily in combat as well. The bonds that exist between individuals that have fought together or just worn the uniform together is unlike any other bond that exists. It is built on trust, it's built on loyalty, it's built on shared values. And so your experiences, those experiences you don't do as an individual, you do them as a team, and you're connected by peers. You discussed the USO in the previous segment, and there are 400,000 organizations that exist out there that want to help us as we reintegrate and come home. And that's the same type of trust and bond that we find in combat. War is absolutely obscene. And there are some things that are more obscene than that. When I first arrived in Diyala province, I held a 5-year-old girl in my arms that had been shot in the face simply because her father was a policeman and he was trying to enforce this new thing called the rule of law in a province that had not experienced that previously. And so you not only connect and have a bond with those individuals you serve with, but you have a bond with the people that are standing beside you, the indigenous force and the people of the Society of Iraq, where I was in Diyala province, that stood with us and that understood that the best was yet to come as well. So when I say war is obscene, there are some things that are more obscene, and that's why we fight. I went into a torture house a few months after we'd been there, and in one corner were arms, one corner legs, another corner were heads and torsos of men, women, and children. And this had been going on prior to our arrival in Iraq. I was able to trace Wahhabist movements in Diyala province to 1986. And there are human rights violations, the Kurdish people coming to us and saying they gassed us. There are some things more obscene, and that's why we fight. So the bond between us that have served in combat together is one that is unmistakably sound. And when we come home, we look for that same bond with the American people. And that's what we're seeing, this desire to help. And what we're looking for is those community leaders, formal and informal, to connect us to and connect with us and help us to achieve our greatness. But the understanding that combat is difficult is made much easier because of the bonds between those that serve together.
You and a colleague wrote a white paper, Sea of Goodwill, and I know your current mission involving warrior and family support involves doing exactly what you were referring to. And your paper focuses on 3 important legs of this meeting the donor to the need: education, medical care, and job opportunities.
Yes, sir.
Speak to that, if you would.
Well, it actually, the Sea of Goodwill was coined by Admiral Mullen several years ago. And he's talking about this desire to help that exists. And the challenge is harnessing that sea of goodwill. When we come home to families, we come home to neighbors, and we come home to communities. We don't necessarily come home to government programs and departments. And so recognizing that there is this desire, how do we connect that to the needs? And we looked at quality of life. And the quality of life for the rest of our lives as we reintegrate into civil society. The foundation of quality of life is education. And not just education for the returning warriors, but education for the children and the children of our fallen and our spouses as well. And so when I was a kid, I could graduate from high school with a high school degree and be very successful. It's not that way. You need to be a graduate of some degree-producing school, whether it's a college, whether it's a community college, or a university, or a trade school. That sets you up for success, and it gives you options. It gives you options and capacity that is beyond what you would have without it.
And let me just state for the record that here at Long Beach State, where I teach and where our studio is, we do have a Veterans University. We are sensitive to them.
Very strong network. And what we find is when you're connected to a network, a returning warrior, because what they've experienced in combat and that family experience, when you come home, they stay in school. The post 9/11 GI Bill is the best ever. And it enables them, but once they get into school, they want to be connected to a network. They want to be connected to mentors. So they stay in school when they're in these networks and connected. The aspect of employment, once you have the education, the meaningful employment again, allows for that long-term quality of life. And meaningful employment is significant. And again, what we've found is when they get the jobs, and they're just asking for a chance. Yeah. Just asking for that opportunity, because once you get them in, you're going to find individuals that have thrived on the battlefield or thrived in the service, and now are going to do the same thing in your organization. There are these individuals that understand working long hours. They're disciplined. They bring ethical leadership to the organization, and then they also understand risk and how to mitigate risk. So they are value added to the organization, and they're part of a team. They understand teamwork.
I hear a good plug for hiring a vet right there. And let me put up a website now that the Colonel told us about called warriorgateway.org, which is a internet clearinghouse where you can find opportunities and find organizations that can help. We'll be back with more of our show after these messages.
Phil Trainees mixes California style with Continental cuisine that includes fresh seafood from around the world. Since Phil is the chef, the menu has a wide variety of pastas, salads, soups, and appetizers that feature his unique personal touch. And the Italian-American signature dishes are simply beyond delicious. You never know who you're going to run into at Trainees, from the famous sports legends on the Wall of Fame to local celebrities having a drink at the bar. For the best fine dining experience, visit Phil Trainees.
At Performance Plus Tire, you'll find we carry TOYO tires. For over 50 years, TOYO has been a world leader in the development of high-quality tires. Optimum performance, safety, and a comfortable ride. That's what makes TOYO tires great. And now come into Performance Plus Tire for a great deal on these TOYO tires. Proxys ST, Open Country AT, and Proxys 4. TOYO tires, driven to perform. Come in today and we'll install new TOYO tires on your vehicle while you wait. Performance Plus Tire on Cherry Avenue, 1 mile north of the 405 in Long Beach.